welcome to episode 141 of the She Must Knit podcast. My name is Erin, and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. So it has been about 2 weeks. I'm kind of keeping on top of the episodes here. I don't have a ton of stuff to share with you today, but I think that's okay. I think sometimes shorter episodes work out well. They're just a little easier to watch. But I have been working on some things, and I'm excited to share my progress with you. Before I get into that, I just want to note one thing. I am again recording on a different device today. I keep going back and forth and trying different things. My preference is actually like my old phone that no longer works as a phone, but it does this flashing thing with the lighting that I just find really irritating to watch back. And I can't seem to do anything about it. I think it's just because it's old. And then I have a camera that I've tried using, but it's got its little quirks with like focusing and stuff like that. And so I'm trying my actual like phone, like my actual like functional phone, and I've never liked recording on this because it seems to have like I don't even like taking pictures on this because it seems to do this like automatic, like the edges seem a little more blurred. It seems to have this like filtery type thing on it, even though it doesn't have a filter on it. I've checked through all the settings, there's no filter option. It just looks like it has some kind of filter on it, and I just never have liked how the pictures and the videos appear. They just, to me, they don't look as lifelike. But I've decided we're going to try it today. We're going to see how things work out. And I think as long as the color is accurate and you can see the projects that I'm sharing with you accurately, I might just push through some of the other stuff that annoys me because, yeah, those are my three options. So we gotta pick something, right? Okay. So I hope you guys have been doing well. We've had a pretty exciting 2 weeks. Yeah, the weather, I don't know what the weather is doing around where you live, but it's just been so wacky this winter with being so mild. We had a really mild week last week, and then last night we had like flurries and a crazy windstorm, and then the temperature has gone down to like -16, -18 today, and then tomorrow it's going to be 12 degrees. And the weekend it's going to be like 15 degrees. It's practically going to be t-shirts and shorts weather. But it feels like spring is coming, but based on past winters, I don't know if we can go by that, because like there's always those days where it seems really nice and you're like, yeah, spring is coming, but I'm like, it's only February. I know there's still some winter left, so I'm trying not to get my hopes up. But because we have been inside in winter, we just tend to be inside more. I'm finding that I'm being really productive this winter, which is great, because I know once the summer comes, that's not going to be the case. So let me share with you what I have been working on. I think my goals the last episode, I only had a couple because I was only working on a few things. I was working on my brother's socks. I wanted to finish the first sock and cast on the second sock. And then I was working on my new cumulus blouse, and I wanted to add a couple of inches to the body. And then I was trying to decide what was, if I was going to work on anything else, because it's very odd for me to work on only 2 projects at a time. And I decided that, we'll just see what happens, and maybe there will be a surprise project to share with you. And I did, in fact, pull out an older project to work on. So let's start with the socks, and I'll share with you how far I've gotten on those. If you'll remember, I cast on my first pair of gift socks for the year, and this is a pair for my brother Owen. And I like to work on his pair in February because his birthday is in February. And even though he's not getting them for his birthday, he's going to have to wait till Christmas. That's just the order that I like to do things. So here we go. I finished the first sock. I think when I shared these with you last time, I was on the foot. I'm pretty sure I had finished the heel because I remember talking about how I did the contrast heel, and I might have been just a few rows into the foot, but I managed to get through the entire foot, and you can see all my little stitch markers there, marking my 10-row increments. For my brother's socks, I like to do 75 rows before I do the toe. And then when I start on the foot of my second sock, I will just take these stitch markers and transfer them over, and that way I know when all of the stitch markers are gone from this sock, the other sock is at the same length. So that is this sock here. Yeah, did my little contrast toe there. If you remember, The yarns, I got my main yarn in my little yarnet, and this is some Cupcake yarns who is no longer dying. And I will just say, I know I talked about this in the last episode, how I have a lot of her yarns because we would do kind of exchanges with her. She did a yarn club, and I would provide the bags, and then in exchange I would get her yarn. So I have a lot of her yarn, and I haven't knit with as much. Actually, going through my projects, I was going through my projects on Ravelry. I have knit with a lot of her yarn, but I still have quite a bit left, and they're all the colorways that just aren't as like, I love this colorway. I think this is knitting up really, really cool. I love how these colors play together, but I have other yarns of hers from different Disney clubs that maybe I just haven't been as drawn to over the years because the color sequences are just more simplistic, like maybe they only have 2 or 3 colors. But after last year, with my whole interest in doing microstripe socks, I was thinking a lot of her yarns that I still have would be great for that. Like I can specifically think of one that I have that's based on Mike from Monsters Inc. And I think it's just like green, black, and white. But pairing another solid with that to do microstripes, I think could look really cool. So all that to say, you're probably going to see more of her yarns coming up in the next couple months as I work through those and maybe do some microstripe socks with them. But I am really enjoying this one. I love how this colorway is knitting up, and I love how it looks with the contrast color that I found in Stash of this Rosy Moments yarn. And this was also from some sort of mystery box. It was themed. I can't remember what the theme was, but this is like a really pretty golden, it's a golden base with some multicolored tweed flecks there, which I think pick up on the yarn, the striping colors really, really well. So again, my goal was to finish the first sock and get the second sock cast on, and that is what I did. I was able to get through that first sock pretty quickly once I put my mind to it. And then I cast on the second one. So we have my cuff, and again, brother socks. So I start with 72 stitches, and then I've got the leg going here. And I think you might be able to see right there that I have started the increases for the strong heel that I'm going to do. So I haven't worked on these in a couple of days. I was kind of working on them, like really wanted to get that first sock done, really wanted to get that second sock started. Once I was getting close to the heel, I was like, okay, let's get that heel, the heel increases going. And then I kind of put them aside to work on some of the other things I have. But I will be getting back to those. And I think these will be a pretty quick finish. Obviously not by the end of February, because I think today's the last day of February. Happy leap year day, by the way. If your birthday is February 29th, happy birthday. But yeah, for sure, beginning of March, those socks will be done, and I'll be able to get on to my next pair. So the other project that I shared with you was my cumulus blouse, and last time I had shared that I had been able to get to the point where I was able to take off the stitches for the sleeves, and I was just working down the body. And even though it seems like it's faster because you don't have as many stitches, you forget how much time and how much knitting goes into the body of a sweater. But I've been working diligently on it, hoping to make some good progress. And this is what I have. I think first I'll go over the yarn again, because remember last time I didn't have a ball right near me, but this is the yarn that I am using. It is the River Washed yarn. I'm still really enjoying this yarn. This is such, I did check because last time I wasn't sure what it was made up of, and it's an acrylic cotton blend. And I feel like the makeup of this yarn works really well with this pattern. It is not an equivalent. So I didn't talk a lot about the pattern because I tend to change things when I make sweaters. I tend to alter, you know, the stitch counts, and I alter the yarns, and I alter the knitting needle size that I use. So it's not always the most helpful thing because it's not what's in the pattern. But I did have a look at the original pattern, and if you've been with me before, you'll know that I have made this pattern before with a different yarn. But if you're new, I have made this pattern, so I have an idea of how it works, and so I haven't been like, I haven't felt the need to follow it like, you know, point by point by point by point. But the original pattern, when I looked at it again, it's a 2 yarns held together. One is kind of like a fine yarn with a halo, and the other one is, you know, more of a standard yarn. And together they make about, I think it's the The gauge required for the pattern was 18 stitches per 4 inches. And I just decided this is the yarn that I wanted to use, so that's what I was going to use, and I would just make it work. And you'll notice that it has kind of like that halo to it, so I think it actually works really well in terms of the look of the sweater. I am using 4.5mm needles. I am getting a different gauge, but like I always just kind of alter my sizes and modify things anyway. But I did want to check to make sure that I was on track with the measurements and everything. But I'm getting about 20 stitches per 4 inches, so just not too far off, but a little bit. And I did my calculations and everything to make sure that I picked the size that would fit my bust, and then also to make sure that, like, as I knit things, I tend to increase things for the bottom of the sweater because I have wider hips, and I'm just trying to take all those into account. So what I ended up doing was I cast on for an extra large because I have more narrow shoulders than the rest of me. And then after I cast on for the extra large, and then I did my increases until I got to the numbers of, I think, the 2X, either the XXL or the 2X. I forget if they had those separated, but I did my increases until I got to the bigger size. And you'll see I've got my little stitch marker here. This is where I was last time when I showed it to you. And I have, in fact, gotten several inches done on the body. So I am just working away on this, and I did do some increases. So after I shared it with you last time, I was like, okay, it's always hard to tell, and I'll show you what I mean. It's always hard to tell when you take the stitches off the needles and you just put them on waste yarn. I find the armholes always look bigger than they're going to look once you pick those stitches up and actually start knitting the sleeves. And I was a little worried that the amount of increases that I did for the arms to get to a bigger bust size was going to be way too big and baggy for my arms. So after I showed it to you last episode, I did take the time to put some extra the needle cords. Like I extended my needle cords for my circular knitting needles to make it so that I could actually try it on. And I just wanted to see, how does it fit around the shoulders? How does it fit around the bust? How is the circumference looking based on my waist and my hips and everything? Am I going to have to make any adjustments? And I did decide to make some increases. So the circumference was actually, it fits really well at the top. It fits really well on my bust so far. But I knew that the circumference that it was at my bust, if I just kept that circumference, it was probably going to be too tight around my hips because I do like a tunic length sweater. And so I was like, okay, I have to add some increases. And then also I wanted to make sure that the arms, like if the arms were just going to be way too big, and like once I put the sleeves in, it was just going to be way too baggy, I knew that it was going to be better to just rip back and deal with it now than to finish the sweater and be mad that I had baggy arms. But I think it's going to be okay. I think it is a little bit loose, but I think once I put the stitches in for the sleeves and I start decreasing, I don't mind the whole, like a whole batwing sweater. I don't mind that thing. As long as I kind of decrease it for the bottom of my arms, I think I'll be okay. And you might remember that I talked about how if this sweater goes well, I already have visions of making it in another color. And I was like, I can always make some adjustments for the increases that I do. Maybe just do a few less increases to adjust for that armhole issue. Anyway, so basically, I've been working on my sweater. My goal was to add a couple of inches to the body, and that is what I have done. And I'm just going to keep plugging away. I'm going to plug away, plug away, plug away. I do have my green cumulus, which is the whole reason that I wanted to make this pattern again. And I think what I'm going to do is bring that out, lay this on top of it to get a gauge of the length of the sweater, because I really don't feel like putting on the cords again and trying it on again. But the green sweater is like it. I love everything about it. I love the length of it. I love the sleeves. I love everything. So I'm just gonna lay this sweater on that one and kind of measure how many inches I need to get to the same length of the hem of the green one, and I'll just make a note of that, and that way I know how many inches I need to knit the body of this. So that is how that is going. I don't think I have any other points to add to that. I'm just working on the body of a sweater. But then we have my mystery third project. So I did decide to work on something else. I wasn't sure if I was going to pick up the yarn for the blanket that I was working on. I wasn't sure if I was going to cast on something new. I didn't really feel like casting on something new. So what I decided to do was go through some of the projects that I had started last year and just got put aside over the holidays or over the once school starts and it kind of gets crazy again, and pull one of those out and work on it and try and get it done, because I do have a couple of squares on my bingo card that are to finish older whips. And this is what I decided to work on. Tell me if you recognize this yarn here. What project do you think I pulled out? This is the yarn that I'm using to make my chameleon. So I looked at my project page and I started this chameleon back in May of 2023. So we are approaching, not quite, approaching a year that I cast this project on. I will put up somewhere, I don't know, over here maybe, a picture of the pattern, because I think when I started it last year, it was to fill the square on my card that was to make a pattern from a PDF pattern from my library that I had previously bought and just never made. And this is one that I bought way back, like 2015 or something. I bought this pattern because I just love the idea of knitting a chameleon. And so I started it last year to fulfill that square. Well, obviously I never completed it, so I didn't get to use it against that square. I had to make something else. But now I can use it against finish an old project square. So it all works out. But yeah, I really wanted to make this chameleon. And when I was looking through the project pages back when I was going to start it, I looked through the project pages of all the people who had made the chameleon, and someone's project has stood out to me because of the way the yarn looked when they made it. And when I checked their project page, it happened to be this exact yarn. And I had a full ball and then a partial ball in my stash, and it looked like this was going to be the perfect amount of yarn to make this chameleon. So I felt like it was meant to be. And all the individual components have not taken that long. I think last year I was able to get the body done. There's a lot of, the thing with this pattern, and if you can tell just by looking at the kind of the pattern imagery and the shaping, there's lots of shaping. There's lots of wraps and turns. There's lots of like patterns going row by row by row by row, step by step by step by step. It's not one of those projects that you can just sit and get started and just knit on. So it's not something that I always have the brain space to do. But I find when I do sit down and do it, that the actual instructions are not difficult. They're a bit tedious and you have to keep, track of them, but they're not difficult. So last year I had finished the body. And the body was basically just this shape here. So it was kind of these two wedges and then the curly tail. And then they were joined and there's a bit of a ridge there that I have to do something with. But that was what I got done last year. I got the body done with the tail. So when I thought of bringing this project back out, I was like, okay, let's work on the chameleon. But what are we going to do? I don't think I can finish the chameleon. But it's like, maybe if I can just get one leg done. So I looked at the pattern, I was like, okay, what are the steps to get the leg done? And of course, there's lots of wraps and turns and row by row by row. I think it was like 25 rows or something. But each row was not difficult. So as long as I was able to sit down, focus, and mark my rows, I was fine. I was like, let's just get one leg done. Well, I did that. Not only did I get one leg done, but I got all the legs done. It only took me, I think, 2 days. These little legs, like how cute are these? They didn't actually take that much time. I think I was able to get almost 2 done in a day. And I was like, okay, I got 2 legs done. Can I get another leg done? And the next day I did the other legs. So those were the front legs, they're a little shorter. And then I got the back legs done. And again, they didn't take that long. And they were kind of fun to do. Like once I was like, as long as I wasn't being, interrupted and I could focus on the pattern, they were actually pretty fun to do. So I got all 4 legs done, and this was still like maybe, 5 or 6 days ago. And I was like, okay, well, can I get some more of this chameleon done before I, sit down and record the next episode? And I was like, you know what, I think I can. So I was able to actually get the head. I was able to put the head on the chameleon. You can see it here, it's kind of all shaped. This is all wraps and turns. I think this took about 40 rows or so, but it's all wraps and turns. Nothing difficult, just again, keeping track of your rows and following the pattern step by step by step. I would say the most difficult thing about this pattern so far, and there's lots of comments in the other projects, is that some people said they found errors in the pattern. I didn't find anything major that I wasn't able to figure out intuitively, but I would say the diagrams. the pattern designer includes diagrams, and it's like, okay, do this according to the picture. And you look at the picture and you're like, I can't see I can't tell what is going on in this picture. What do you mean do this based on the diagram? It's like, I can't see anything. And I found that, like, especially for the legs where you had to pick up stitches to do a couple of rows, I had to like zoom in on the picture and try and figure out exactly what position the knitted piece was in order for me to like pick up those stitches. Anyway, I was able to figure it out. Same thing with this head. So the head, usually when you pick up stitches on a project, you're picking them up along an edge or something. This one, no, you're picking it up like within the knitting. So like this part here is actually part of the body. I don't know if you'll be able to tell that. And you had to pick up stitches within the actual knitting of the body. And so like anyway, I had to look, I had to zoom in, I had to like, the way it was explained and the way the way the diagram was not immediately clear to someone doing this project. So I was able to figure it out. I was able to do it. It's looking like a chameleon. I've got the body done. I've got the legs done. And then it's like, oh my goodness, I must be almost done. Maybe I can just finish the chameleon. I was like, let's just look at see what the next parts of the pattern are. And I am not. I was like, okay, this is going to take more time than I have. So I was like, let's just share what we have here. We have the legs, we have the body, and then I'm going to make it a goal. When we talk about goals later, I'm going to try and finish the chameleon. So basically, what do I have left to do on this? I have to pick up stitches around his face to create the eyes. I have to pick up along this ridge here to make kind of like spikes and stuff like that. And then what really surprised me, because I thought, okay, this is the body, I'm probably just going to have to, I knew I had to create an armature. And you might have noticed with the legs and stuff, I have these little wires because I want the body and the legs to be able to bend and like to grab onto stuff. And I got them all the way into his little hands here. So I knew I was going to have to create an armature within the body. And I'll quickly show you, where is that stuff? What am I using? Okay, so this is what I decided to use to create the armature, and I think it's actually working out really, really well. I picked this up at the dollar store. I think I originally picked this up for other, like, I don't know if I picked it up for gardening purposes, because I am not a gardener, but I probably picked it up for something else. But it is working really well for this, instead of like pipe cleaners or floral wire or something really stiff, because it's very pliable. It's very soft. It's very easy to cut, but it is keeping its shape well. So yeah, I have enough of that. I'm going to have to create an armature within the body. But then after that, I was like, okay, once I put the legs on, I just have to sew this up. No, this is another instance where I'm looking at this pattern, trying to wrap my head around it. I'm supposed to pick up stitches somehow around this edge, but it's not exactly just around the edge. And do some more wraps and turns and short rows and all that to create his like underbelly. But yes, that's so basically 3 things. I have to pick up and make the eyeballs. I have to do the dorsal ridge along his back, and then I have to create this underbelly, all while having the armature within the chameleon and the stuffing before I can complete this chameleon. But it will be done. I am so close, and now I kind of got that motivation to keep going. So I'm going to be working on that probably this weekend. That is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be working on this chameleon. So I think that is it. That is what I have to share with you today. Like I said, just a couple of projects, but I think I made some good progress on them, and very exciting, especially to bring out an older project. So let's quickly talk about my goals for next episode. I want to have my brother socks done. I think I can do that. I want to have them done, and I want to have my next pair cast on. I have not decided if that, usually I go in the order of my brother. So like February, I make the pair for Owen, and then see, I don't have to work on my next brother because, again, this is how my brain works. His birthday's in June, so I'll probably work on his socks in June. But I like making a pair for my mom for Mother's Day or her birthday because they're very close. I like making a pair for my friend Rebecca. I like making a pair. I have a pair for Dennis on my bingo card this year, so that has to be done. So I'm not quite sure which socks I'm going to cast on next. But for the next episode, I want to have another pair cast on. I might just go through my stash, see what speaks to me, and then designate that yarn to to a person. So that's goal number 1.5, I guess. Finish the socks and pick out my next pair and get those cast on. My goal for my cumulus is just to continue working on the body. I don't think I'm going to finish the body. I think I'm only, it's going to take several inches to get to the end of the body. So I just want to add another, 2 to 5, maybe 3 to 5 inches, 3 to 5 inches to the body, and I will be content with that. And then I want to finish my chameleon. I would love to just have that done and have him ready to show you next time. I think that'll be so much fun. And then that will knock off, that will definitely knock off 1 square. I think the socks might knock off, no, that's a partial square, but be working towards completing a square. And then my cumulus will be working towards completing a square. So if I can finish the chameleon for next episode, I will have another square on my bingo card marked off. So I think that is it. Nice short episode today. I hope you were able to sit down, maybe have a little break, have a little hot beverage or something. Let me know down in the comments, what are you working on? Are you participating in Crafty Bingo? How is your card going so far? We are almost done the first quarter of the year. And that is it. So I hope you have a wonderful evening, day, weekend, whatever you are doing, and you are crafting on all the things that bring you joy, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.